Lisa, Carmen Wang, we met a little while ago. Entrepreneur, exited a company, recognized as 30 under 30, and now building a Hall of Fame recognized gymnast as well. So fascinating woman, and there's some acronyms that we have to remember. That are Bitcoin Bootcamp. Start.
The Bad Bitch Empire?
Bad Bitch Empire. I was trying to hold that away. Lisa is fascinating. And the reason we had Lisa on today, just to talk about being the change, right? Being the change, standing up and making a difference. So her purpose is, I don't know how long ago this started, but you have a purpose and you're fulfilling and attempting to fulfill that purpose. I'm going to let you talk about that purpose. Give us a little bit of background so we know how you came to this purpose and what you're doing to execute it.
So my background is as a gymnast on the US team. So I spent over a decade training as a US gymnast. And I would say that the most important lesson that I learned from being a gymnast was the ability to fall over and over again and get back up. And I think when you learn how to fall in front of hundreds of thousands of people and you can feel that physical pain and also that humiliation and that shame and find the strength inside of you to get back up and put a smile on your face and just keep going and get back in the gym, then that sort of internal resilience carries over into entrepreneurship. It carries over into investing because nothing can really shake you. And so after I spent a decade in as a gymnast, I was 08 Olympic alternate, and then I went on to study literature at Yale, to my parents' chagrin, thinking that that had no utility at all. But turns out storytelling is quite an important skill. And after that, I went to Wall Street. So I spent a couple of years at a hedge fund before realizing that I'm unemployable and I can't work for people. So then I jumped into the startup world and I started my first startup. And it was in the process of fundraising for that startup, going to Silicon Valley for the first time and really realizing just how difficult it was as a young woman trying to raise funding. And this was pre-Me Too, when there really was no awareness around the gender gap and the funding gap for women. And so there were no communities for women entrepreneurs to connect with each other. And I was just really looking for people who could empathize with my journey, and ended up building a community called SheWorks, which was a global community of over 20,000 female entrepreneurs. We ended up helping women raise over 50 million in funding and trying to fulfill that first mission of closing the funding gap. But to this day, women still receive less than 2% of all venture funding dollars. Women of color receive less than 0.2% of venture funding dollars. And the problem persists. And so one thing that we continue to see is that women create companies for women, and women control over 85% of consumer spending. And the fact that we receive less than 2% of all venture funding means that there's an extreme disconnect between the economy and the potential for what women can bring to the table. And so we continue to see that gap today. And so after that company was acquired, I started diving into Web3 and crypto and really seeing the power of blockchain technology. And I think that initially, the biggest thing that struck me was that when we have a technology that's permissionless and trustless, and there is no central authority, given a financial system that has been created by and for men, that there's a huge opportunity for women and underrepresented folks to get into the game and actually create a financial system that serves us. And so when we see right now, less than 15% of crypto investors are women, the wealth, even with all of this potential, the wealth continues to go to a small homogenous group of people. And every single time there's an innovation, women are left out. And I think that that represents a huge opportunity. If women don't participate, if women are not given access, it's another huge missed opportunity for really everyone in the just the productivity of our global workforce. And so at Bad Bitch Empire, so actually I'll backtrack a little bit. Last year I started writing my first book, and I got my book deal with HarperCollins, so I started writing the Bad Bitch Business Bible. And the Bad Bitch Business Bible is about helping women break free of good girl brainwashing and all the messages that tell us that we need to obey and be polite and be pleasing and follow the rules. Because in business, you can get in the door as a good girl, and that gets you a good job. But if you want to be a leader, you need to become a bad bitch. And I define a bad bitch as a woman who unapologetically takes charge of her body, her boundaries, and her bank account. And I think this next opportunity, and that we're in a really important inflection point, given what can be built on the blockchain, that we need more bad bitches in the space. We need more women unapologetically claiming the opportunity that is presented to us and jumping into the game. And so Bad Bitch Empire was created to train bad bitches, to train an army of bad bitches, help women break free of good girl brainwashing, and start investing in crypto, start investing in the Web3 ecosystem, and not let jargon or any traditional obstacles prevent us from being integral players in Web3.
Yes, so I was in Miami with Lisa at an event that Bad Bitch Empire was hosting. And let me tell you, the room looked very different from this. There were some amazing people there, amazing people. You did a wonderful job. Surrounded by, just surrounded by energy, enthusiasm, smart women leading VC companies, women investing in Web3, women investing in businesses, and the energy was great. So that was a very phenomenal event. After that event, you've continued to develop that path. How is that going?
It's going great. So we have a couple.
Let's talk about the goal.
Yes.
And then
the goal.
Yes.
The goal is 1 million bad bitches investing in crypto.
Or Web3.
Or Web3. Yeah, we use crypto as a entry point to make the language accessible.
Yeah, because what you found is that a lot of there is that gateway drug, right? What is it to do, and how do you start investing? And that's probably something that we're talking about. And how do you get involved and engaged and learn all the jargon? When you started seeing that change, the enthusiasm, what was some of the takeaways from those events and other events that you've had leading this charge?
In terms of women wanting to invest?
How are women reacting to this?
I mean, I think women are hungry to make money and unapologetically do so and start investing. So there's a number of women in our community who have come into wealth for the very first time. So have come from nothing, we've grown up together and built companies and sold companies. And for the first time, they have wealth. And they've never been in investing circles. They've never been given any sort of investment education. And the desire is, I want to invest, I want to make my money work for me, but I want to do it in a community of women. I don't want to do it alone. And I think that this communal desire is very strong. And I think in particular in Web3, there is something to be said about the collaborative advantage over the competitive advantage, which was previously in Web2, and really any previous business case. But I think there's a desire for women to collaborate. There's a desire for women to be around other female investors and to actually create an impact in investing in companies that not only have a profit, but truly impact is integral in the companies that we're building, because I just don't think that it even makes sense to be building a company if it doesn't have positive impact in the world. And I think naturally those conversations that we have in the Bad Bitch Empire is around, we want to invest in companies that do good for the world and do good for our pockets. So I don't think that that's mutually exclusive. And in fact, yeah, any company that isn't, I just don't think it should exist in 2022.
So you heard yesterday, and we've been talking about this over the last couple of days, the word community and what that means. With the community that you're building, the driving force is investing together, and investing for impact. So all of those combined create that community. Is that how you're defining it?
Yeah. Well, first, before you can tactically invest, you need to feel confident and have an abundant money mindset. And if you think about just financial education to date, 90% of financial articles targeted towards women are negative, or about saving, or about spending less. And it's the exact opposite for articles targeted towards men, which are about investing and FOMO often, and just getting in the game and putting your money to work. And so if you have a cultural rhetoric that is constantly emphasizing to women fear, ignorance, or anxiety around money, you're not going to want to invest. And there is the misperception that investing means losing money. It's not seen as an opportunity, I would say, just culturally. And so a big part of what we do is actually the education piece. So first is the mindset. You have to, as a bad bitch, you make your money work for you. You don't let it sit in your savings account collecting dust. And then after that, we talk through your actual bad bitch portfolio. How do you build that?
Sure.
What are the different asset classes available? There is no one size fits all for everyone. And I think that having the flexibility and not pushing deals. I think one thing about current investing processes and just education is that people push deals on people. And for women, that doesn't work. The more you push, the more you tell me I should invest in this, the more I'm skeptical. And so I think the way that we're doing it is really collectively voting on deals that are coming in. And so we are exploring investment DAOs to see what that could look like, and how that relates to the psychology of our community.
Wonderful. So when we met for Bitcoin Miami, the markets were flourishing. There's a lot of energy, excitement, enthusiasm. It's a month later, and the energy level is a little bit less. Enthusiasm maybe a little bit lower. But you completely engaged with your community. Tell me how they're reacting and what they're feeling, what they're saying.
I always say we go discount shopping.
Go discount shopping, that's right. Okay.
But no, I think, I don't think there's any less enthusiasm around Web3, because the real loss right now is if you're, a short-term trader. But if you are building a project with real value and real utility long-term, and you believe in the ecosystem and the technology long-term, this is just a blip, and we've been through these cycles before.
And so when you look at some of the deals that you're screening, it's fascinating that you're putting a layer around impact and making a difference, perhaps a good difference. Are you looking at any sort of, what is the difference? Is it human impact? Is it social? Is it weather? Is it food? What are the impacts that your community believes are positive?
Can you rephrase this?
Okay. When you look at someone building a company, or you're investing in a company, what is the impact that you're paying attention to? What are the impacts that your community is most likely to be favorable to? Health, education, food, weather. What are the?
Yeah, I can't speak for all women, but I would say a big part of it is health. I think women's health is a huge opportunity that has just not been represented at all. You look at all the innovations. So and what I would call it is the woman's experience. So there was research done around just the average day-to-day of how a woman experiences the world, where there are minor discomforts that people never even realize that the world, our physical world, was designed for men. So if you think about every time the average woman tries to open a door, she struggles. And that's a point of discomfort because doors are created for the tensile strength of a man. And when airbags, the car airbags were designed, hundreds of women and children were killed because all of the engineers were male, 250 pounds, and they never thought to test a female driver. When the Fitbit, when Apple, Nike released their fitness trackers, not a single one of them thought to include a period tracker, when that's one of the number one things that women do is track their periods. Yeah. And so all of these little innovations, right, are already not taking into account the female experience. And then when you think about systemically, the healthcare system, women pay over 80% more when it comes to health bills because the system was not designed for women. We are not tested when it comes to medical testing. And so a lot of times when women come in with symptoms, they're marked off as crazy or just emotional, and come back later to find that there was an actual issue underlying it. But I think that when women represent 85% of consumer spending, we make 70% of household decisions, and we're not getting the funding. We walk through the world literally just with little points of discomfort every single day. I think that's why we love investing in women and diverse founders. So we look at the long-term vision, but at the end of the day, it's also who's building it.
So we have a number of women in this room and a number of men in this room. When I ask you the question to the women, how did we overlook, how did all these men overlook 50% of the population or 60% of the population? Or I ask the men, how did we overlook 50% of the population or 60% of the population? Carrie, you're in medical, you're funding companies, you're looking at these things, and how does this resonate with you?
I mean, based on historicals, look at the evolution of women in business coming from finally there at the table. However, traditionally, the man has controlled the wallet. So based on systematic things that have happened in our history, combination of ego maybe, but slower to adopt. And thank goodness for projects that you're doing that were there, and hopefully the past doesn't dictate the future in this case.
Thank you. Anyone else want to make a comment about that? Positive, negative? Question about that?
So I think one of the big problems is if you follow the money historically, the money's always led back to men. So at the end of the day, you're just going to be left out. That's the reality until that starts to change. And I think what you're trying to do here is exactly that, because unfortunately, that's where it comes from, that thinking at any rate.
So how then are we here today going to support Bad Bitch Empire and Lisa Carmen Wang? How are we going to do that? How are we going to do this?
Badbitchempire.com.
Linqto, when I met Lisa and we were talking about.
Which is Linqto to put her project on your website.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. When I met Lisa and I heard her story, I said to Lisa, we're aligned with your goal. Educating, empowering, motivating, and supporting 1 million women to make the transition so that they can take control, make investments, learn, and be a motivating force. This is what we talked about when we met, and we're still supporting you. And that is, I'm so glad you were here to spread your message some more. I may have missed, I know that you have a couple of other things to say, so I wanted you to take this opportunity.
Oh, what else do I have to say? What else
Or does anyone have any questions? While we think about it a little bit. Yes.
I came from CPG companies.
I have seen progress made in big CPG companies. For example, I have a good friend used to run the women's pad division, a man running women's pad division in P&G. But that's how the CPG company used to work. But I have thought we have made a lot of progress. But I was a little bit shocked how little progress we have made. But one of the things we can do is to increase the board member of companies. I'm shocked on how backward we are in the tech industry. That's a bit shocking for me.
Thank you so much. Lisa, big round of applause for Lisa. Carmen Wang, thank you so much for being here today. As you spend time with Lisa, think of ways. I know this is something that we did not know. You may have had dinner with her. You may have had drinks with her. You may have not have met her yet. But as you have listened to some of the challenges that she's trying to solve, let's think through how we can all support this mission, because it's an important one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.